Welcome back to Social Media Journalism. This is Robert Quigley, the instructor for this course for the University of Texas at Austin. This module is on breaking news and how social media has completely changed that game. Look at this photo. What's striking about it? It's from Egypt on the first day of the protests that turned into a revolution. Notice everybody's holding up smartphones, or at least phones of some kind, that can shoot video and/or photos. Smart journalists know how to harness that, how to take advantage of that, and how to tell their stories. The world has changed. The power to report is now in the hands of the many, as illustrated by that photo. So how can we be useful? Well, I think it's important now that we help bring good content to light. There's so much content. Where we come in handy is when we can pick through it and find the information that's truly useful. And it is all about organizing and adding context to that content as well. With so much content, what can people trust? Even more, how can they find anything useful? It's only going to get to where there's more and more content out there, not less. So a journalist who knows how to sift through this, aggregate it, and find a way to present it is going to be very useful in the future. Let's watch this short video.
We're going to be stuck here a while, buddy.
So that video was shot by an amateur, obviously, with a smartphone, standing on the balcony in a hotel in Cairo. And he captured a really dramatic, active moment in the protests. That footage would not have existed 15 years ago. There would have been no way for people to know exactly what happened at that moment at those protests. Journalism organizations that know to look for this video and actively seek it can get a more complete story. Here's something I was personally involved in back in 2008. When I was at the Statesman, we sent reporters down to the coast as Hurricane Ike came ashore. Our reporters were updating an account called Tracking Ike on Twitter, which was still a relatively new service at the time. Our reporters had some dramatic posts. As you could see at the top, our reporter Tony Plahetsky said, "Boats are on the highway and waves are lapping up onto the road. May have to walk across the northbound side." I remember at that moment noticing that the New York Times lead blog was linking to this Twitter account saying this was the place to get the latest from Hurricane Ike. Suddenly, Twitter wasn't just something to play around with, it was an actual viable journalistic tool. Not only that, I was getting direct messages on that account from people following it in Houston who were telling me that their power was out, they had no other way to get news except for this Twitter account, and they were thanking me. I thought that was really interesting. This is from the Fort Hood shootings in 2009. When I asked at the bottom of the file there, you could see, got a story tip about Fort Hood. That's a good practice during breaking news, is to ask people for help. Notice I also retweet KXAN News, which is a competitor to the Statesman. I always felt like it was important to be the source for news, even if you're sharing other people's news as you do it. You should have everything you possibly can and be aggregating on the fly with your Twitter account. This is from when a plane crashed into a building in Austin back in 2010. As you could see at the very bottom, because it goes in reverse chronological order, I got my very first tweet from the plane crash from KI, which is a CBS station here in town. They posted that they're getting reports of an explosion, possibly a plane hitting a building. So I retweeted it, and notice I put a little context in front of it. We're checking on this, because we did not have it verified at that time. The next tweet, I asked if anybody had seen anything. I started getting people telling me they were seeing things, so I directed them to our reporter, again Tony Plahetsky, and I gave out his phone number. He ended up getting dozens of phone calls from people thanks to Twitter. Many of those people ended up in our blog posts and in stories, and they had eyewitness reports of the plane crashing into the building. I also was asking for pictures. I asked, you could see in the second one from the bottom, I said, if you have a twit pic, let me know. And again, because I was there every day talking to the community when breaking news happened, people felt very comfortable sharing photos with us. You can see that retweet of Laura Burris at the second from the top that has a twit pic saying plane crash into Austin building. She had @replied the Statesman with it, and it was this photo. At the time, we had no idea the scope of the accident. And when we saw that, we knew we had a pretty big story on our hands. I started searching through Twitter looking for more photos, so I was searching the word twitpic within 15 miles of Austin using an advanced Twitter search. I found this photo eventually. I asked for permission to use it, and we used it not only online as the centerpiece on statesman.com, but in print. I think it was important that I ask permission instead of just taking it. That person owns the rights to that photo, and I don't think it's okay to just take it and post it on your publication. Here's a photo that I shot outside of the communications building at the University of Texas. There was a protest going on over the cartoon that the Daily Texan published during the Trayvon Martin situation. The photo is definitely an eye-catching photo, and it was used in a couple different places without my permission. They did credit me in this case, but they didn't ask me if it was okay to use it. Eventually, I did talk to the editor of this publication, and I said, you probably should have asked for permission, but I'll allow it this time. I'm okay with it. So what do you do when breaking news happens? I think searching through the networks for keywords around the incident is very, very important. All of the networks have a lot of content coming in during breaking news, and if you know to sift through it and find people who are actually there and to either contact them or retweet them or to ask them permission to use their photos and videos, you can really be useful during breaking news. Definitely ask for help. As you saw in my tweets, I asked people if they had any pictures. I asked if they knew anything about the crash when the plane was crashing into the building. When Hurricane Ike came through, I asked people if they knew of any places where there was a lot of damage that they wanted us to check out. Asking for help is a good thing. Definitely ask for permission, as I said. And be the source for timely, accurate news. Tell readers how you know something and why you believe it. Don't just post things without explaining why you know it's to be true. Use of hashtags is important because a lot of people will use it as a way to syndicate content and to look through content surrounding an event. Often, if you are a big enough news source, you can create the hashtag. So when the plane crashed into the building, I could have started one called #PlaneCrash, and I think everybody in Austin would have started using it because the Statesman had that many followers. However, usually you just want to see what other people are using and go along with it. I used a separate account for both the hurricane and for the Fort Hood shootings because I felt like those were not in Austin, but they were events that we had a lot of updates coming through. So if I put them on the main Statesman account, it probably would have overwhelmed a lot of people who cared about the story but didn't care about every single detail of the story. When the plane crashed into the building in Austin, we kept it all on the Statesman account, mainly because I felt like that was happening right here in the middle of Austin, and so everybody following or at least most of the people following the Statesman account would care what was going on. Well, that's it for breaking news. It is quiz time, so go to Blackboard and take the quiz. If you have any questions, ask on the Facebook page, on the group, or send me an email. See you next time.